What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr. Welcome to the Authors Showcase. And we come to you bringing you some of our nation's brightest, and I say just some great writers, authors, speakers that you might not ordinarily see in mainstream, but because of who we are and what we want to do, bring you just some knowledge, information, and resources that you might not ordinarily hear. We thought that we would want to bring you some of our some of our nation's great writers and authors. So welcome to the Author Showcase. It's your impact builder, Leroy McKenzie Jr. We're coming to you this evening live, and in just a couple of seconds, I'm going to bring to the lounge. I call it. I call it the Author Showcase Lounge. Um, I'm going to bring this author on who is just a beautiful spirit, and we're going to be talking about some great stuff today. I know that we're going to be talking about some things that are just gonna reminisce with some people, that are gonna resonate with some people, just take you into a place, and especially going into the holidays too, to think about family and all of those things. So um, I thought it would be great. It's just kind of perfect timing and everything. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to jump right in. And I want to introduce this young lady. And then I'm going to let her, as I always do, introduce herself to people, just to tell folks a little bit about her and who she is. And then we're going to get into our conversation about the book that she has on memoirs. So I think it's something that's special and it's be great. So I want to introduce everyone to Miss Knowlin. So Miss Knowlin, I want to thank you. Welcome to the Authors Showcase. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on the show. I am so honored to be able to share my platform tonight, and I am really, truly appreciative of this just occasion to be able to come to my community and just to share some gems tonight. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, I usually start the conversation off by having the authors tell everyone, because I won't don't read bios or anything like that. But just
Okay.
if you could start it off just by telling us just a little bit about who Miss Nolan is.
Okay, well, Miss Nolan, I have a lot of hats that I wear. To begin with, currently I'm a PhD candidate at Barry University. So I've been in education for a very long time. I also have been a teacher for 23 years in both New York City and now currently in Florida. I'm
Okay.
also a mom. I am a director of education programs here for Broward County Schools. I'm just an author. I have a lot of things that I can say about myself. For example, I run my own business, which I'll talk a little bit more about, which is entitled Black Girls Write Too, LLC. And like I said, I just wear many hats, and I'm so honored to be able to share some of the things that I have learned along the way with the community tonight.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and we appreciate you coming on to spread that and being an educator. I love that. I love that. I love that. I have the utmost respect for those of you that are in education and specialize in everything. It takes a special it takes a special person to do that. I believe in everything. So so I appreciate you doing that. Um, let's start our conversation with what got you started writing. What made you say that you had something inside of you that you wanted to put in words and then put into a book?
Well, to be honest with you, I've always loved writing. I mean, I just love to be able to express myself verbally also, but also in a written format. And being able to express myself has just been a way for me to just like have an outlet to relieve myself of whatever stress I might be able to go through or anything like that. But just writing is just it's just been in my heart, you know. I mean, I remember as a little girl even doing silly things like writing my name all over the place, you know, just I just had to always have a pen in my hand and just doodling and just writing down little, songs. I even wrote songs at one point. So I just have a love for prose and just being able to, I have a love for literature and a love for words. And so that's where that stems from.
Oh, that's excellent. That's great. Now, how many books have you written? Is this your first book that you've written, or have you written other
Ye-
books as well?
Yes, this the Memoirs of an Empress, that is my flagship book. I actually am currently finishing up my second book, which is entitled 1991, and that I'm expecting to be able to release it during the December holidays.
Okay.
So yeah, this is my first book, and it's been an adventure, and I'm just having so much fun with it. It's taken me in so many different places. So. I'm looking forward to expanding because I have a lot that I have to share, not only just for myself, but also people that I have met along the way in the community, even my family. So I have many books inside of me that still need to come forth, if you will.
Oh, that's great. Now let's talk a little bit about that. What has your writing experience been like on that journey? What made you how had that writing experience been for you with this being your like you said your flagship book? What has that experience been like for you with having this foundational book for you? How has that experience been for you that process?
It's been an awesome experience. It's been an experience that I'm super proud of. In doing so, I was able to create a course that I use to help others to write books. So it helped me to organize my thoughts. It helped me to streamline what I actually did so that I can inspire others and actually show them what I actually did in order to write my book. It has been an experience where I've been able to network with a lot of people on various platforms and just meet a lot of different other people. And from that, I've learned, you know, tricks and trades of the business, if you will. And so in publishing my second book, obviously, I've learned a lot of things that has helped me to make some better decisions, if you will, as I'm publishing the second book now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that that's one of the things I know with writing, and then especially when you go into like you with the I don't call it self publishing, I call it being an authorpreneur. Um, and when you do, you wear all of those different hats because you're doing you're doing every aspect of the um, of, of, of the business when it comes to writing your book. You have a whole different perspective on the book, and I think that you come to understand a lot more when you do it that way because you have to know different things. You have to build different relationships, like you said, and everything like that, and then building that brand out for you as well. So what's been the toughest aspect of that for you?
I would say the toughest aspect would be the marketing because
Mm,
unless you have a real, paid marketer, you really have to motivate yourself to market
right.
your book. And so, for example, when I'm working with clients, the one thing that they probably get tired of hearing me say is, no one can read your book if they don't know it's there, and
Yep.
so you really have to get yourself motivated and do whatever it is that you can to get your name, your brand, your book, what you do out into the community and let people know what's happening because again, millions of people, and like I always say, there's so many people, not everyone's going to read your book, but there's going to be a lot of people that will. But again, if they don't know it's there, then it's not a choice for them. So I think marketing is definitely something that would have to be on the top list there for one of the toughest things because again, if you're not paying someone to market your book, you really have to motivate yourself and find creative ways to do so.
Right, and I think now let me ask you this. I'll ask it this way because I know me going into writing my books, that the marketing aspect of it when you don't have that, and this is why I've gained so much more respect for Fortune 500 companies because I've come to see how hard you have to work to build a brand, to be able to build a name for yourself. Because I've said this, that every Fortune 500 company started off as a small company, you know, all of it. There's not one that started off being this big company. And the same
Absolutely.
thing applies to being an author. When I started off as an author, you have to, you not only, you're building a name for yourself, but you have to understand the dynamics of doing that. And like you said, if you don't have someone that's marketing, that you're paying to market it for you, and you go about that route yourself, you have to understand that there's strategies that go with it. There's a plan that has to be, that you have to develop. Did you develop a plan as you went along? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Again, I work with a lot of clients. So because of that, I have a lot more experience now of how to direct people. So I feel like if you have a book that you know that you are going to definitely publish, whether you self-publish or you go with a publishing house, it's
Mm-hmm.
super important to pre-market. So before your book even drops, you should be talking about your book. You should be letting people know about your book. You should be sharing the topics that are in your book. You should just be, again, marketing and advertising so that when your book actually lands into the hands of bookstores and it's actually printed, now people are going to be so desired to want to read your book because you have actually put it out there that, whatever this book is about, people are going to be drawn towards that topic if it's something that they're interested in. So, pre-marketing is super important, and that's one of the strategies I think that people who are getting ready to publish a book should really look into. And of course, using social media. I mean, social media is a platform that millions of people are utilizing, and so if we, as a community, utilize it in the best way possible to help spread positive messages, then it could also be a benefit for us along the way as far as business is concerned as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you think that authors use the social media platforms enough as a tool to be able to gain that exposure that you talked about?
Well, in my opinion, I mean, I have my own network of people, so in my opinion, the people that I have come across, I would feel that they could use social media a little bit more. I mean, like, have live interaction with clients and just do more things to promote your book and use ads or whatever it is that it takes for you to do. But before you just go and start doing stuff, I strongly suggest that you do a lot of research and figure out what is out there first, and what is feasible for you, because what may be feasible for an author, that has written 10 books may not be feasible for you who has written just one, so, and, along that lines, never compare yourself to others. Your
Mm.
journey is unique, so make sure you know what your journey is and make sure you stay on that path that, you set for yourself.
Yeah, and you said something that's very important, that people have to understand their own journey and their own path about how to do it, because what may fit for you may not be the same fit for me. And even the way that we approach it, we could be writing something similar in the same genre, but the way we go about writing it, because it's going to be our take on things, but then also how we promote it, how we put it out there, that energy that we give off, I think important too. So I think that's,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
We have to embrace our own unique personalities and just,
Mhm.
figure out how can we use that to our best advantage.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what's been the greatest thing about writing for you? What
I
makes
think that
you?
the greatest thing about writing has been just being able to share my story and inspiring others to feel like, wow, if she could do it, I could do it too, and I just feel like never limit yourself, because I, to be honest, this book has been in the works, I would say, for at least 5 years, and it just took a
Mm,
lot of me building up the courage to actually believe in myself that I could actually do it, to actually doing it. So I would say never doubt yourself. Always believe that you can do the impossible, and just make sure that, again, you continue doing what you need to do for yourself, for your goals, for achieving what it is that you set. And, just don't go out there blindly. Make sure you have, something specific that you're working towards.
Now, what was it? Now, it took you 5 years to bring this book to fruition. What were some of the obstacles? Or you mentioned one, but what was some of the other things that kind of kept you from bringing it sooner? Or maybe this was the time frame that it was supposed to come to fruition and bring to reality. I want you to talk to that author that is saying, okay, it's taking me 5 years, or I still got mine sitting on the shelf and it's been 10 years. What do I do?
Yeah, so for me, I think it was just being very specific with setting, intimate goals. Like,
Okay.
first, the way I approach it is, I look at the big picture first, like, okay, when do I actually want to publish this book? And then I go backwards, So
Hmm.
if I want to take a year to publish this book, then
Right.
for each month in that year, what am I going to be doing? What are the little steps that I'm going to be taking to make sure that when that year comes to an end, that it has actually happened? Because if I look at, oh, I want to publish a book, I might get a little intimidated by that, But if I say, oh, I'm going to write my first two chapters in the first 3 months, or whatever you are most comfortable with, you know, I think that that is where we have to start, just making sure that, again, I always plan backwards. So it's like, what is it that I want to achieve at the end? What is it I want to see happen at the end? And then what are the steps that I need to be taking? So again, if I want to be, New York's bestseller, what do I have to do that? Well, I have to have interviews. I have to get my name out there. I have to talk to influential people. So, these are things that I'm taking. These are the steps that I'm taking because one day I will be a New York bestseller. And so I know that these are the things that have to happen in order to make sure that actually takes place.
Absolutely, absolutely, and hope that the authors or aspiring authors that may be listening understand that you have to go when you decide to be an author. You want to have a plan going in, and not just have the plan, but actually implement that plan, because it does you no good to have a plan and not implement it. It's just, that's a waste of your time to do something like that. But to have a plan, to implement that plan, and then to be strategic about that plan, I think is really, really, really important. Now, what's the message that you want the reader to come away with from Memoirs of an Empress? Now, tell us first. Can you talk a little bit about what the book is about, and then talk about the message that you want them to come away with?
Absolutely. So the book, the Memoirs of an Empress, can be found
Yep.
everywhere. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that you can Google the book. You can go to many platforms and find the book. It's available audio, paperback, many platforms. So the Memoirs of an Empress is the story of an African American woman who has, a lot of personal life experiences such as having children, being single, being divorced, just being able to go through those experiences, and at the end being a success story. And so, what it is to show women of color that whatever it is that you're going through, yeah, you're going to go through these struggles, but at the end, there will be successes, So don't get discouraged by what is happening at the moment. So I always say, never make these permanent decisions on temporary feelings,
Mhm.
just make sure that you understand that what you're going through is a process, and that being strong in yourself and knowing who you are and being confident at the end yields success. And so the book's message is be strong in who you are, accept your struggles, and understand that if you continue to do that, being strong who you are, accepting your struggles, and going forth, that at the end you will achieve all the things that you want to achieve.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, how important? Because when I think of your title, I think of memoirs. I think of chronicling our lives. How important is that for us to not only talk about our lives, but how important is that for when it comes to the family and having those messages passed down through the family.
Absolutely. And this is the message that memoirs bring, because it's the story of people. And
Mm.
it's the story of lived experiences of people. So it's what actually people have gone through. And
Hmm.
so these stories are important for us because, unfortunately, today's society, we don't necessarily have conversations with our elders anymore.
Right.
We don't sit down and find out what is it that you went through that I can avoid, or if you will. So having these memoirs are so important because it gives you a platform to make mistakes without you having to make mistakes. Because as you know, books are experiences, and
Hmm.
as you read, you experience places, you experience times, you experience people, and when you experience things that are not your own, it teaches you lessons for your experiences. And so, again, our stories are just as important as other stories. And we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we are leaving written stories for our future generations, because we can no longer depend on the word for word. How it used to be, oh, everybody, you tell your grandchildren the story and they tell their children. We can't depend on that because conversations are void in many homes. You know,
Yeah.
kids are on their phones all day, parents too, and it's just because of society. No blame to be placed, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that we're leaving stories for our generations to know what is it that our people went through. It didn't stop in the civil rights movement. It didn't stop in this. We're still going through, we're still having experiences that are important that we share. And so I think that that's what a memoir does. And what makes my memoir very unique is that I use the experiences very, very personal, and that I include the snippets of diaries
Mm.
of my characters. So when you're reading the book, you're going to read the diary of the main character, whose name is Empress. So you're reading, you're like, wow, this I can really imagine what this character is going through because I'm actually reading what she wrote down in her personal diary. So that's the connection that I hook the audience with.
Wow, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. And have we as a community have we gotten away from and I think I asked you just before we came on from the matriarch and patriarchs of our families where that told the stories that got passed down to us. And I'll get into a little bit about the story that I told you. But have we gotten away from that, do you believe in our society, in our community nowadays?
I absolutely believe so. And again, I think it's because of the way society is today. You have parents. I mean, back in those days, the mom or whoever, usually the female in the family would stay home and take care of it. Now everybody has to work. Sometimes two and three jobs. Just to support the home.
Right.
So now you come home, you're tired, you just want to go to bed. So the conversation piece is really missing. We used to have a time where everybody would come together. You'd have your meals together. You talk about what was it like to experience the day. What did you
Right.
do? What was good and bad. Those conversations are missing. In many households, unfortunately. So we have to be again very, very deliberate in what we are doing as a community to make sure that our stories continue. And so being able to write them down and being able to express ourselves in ways that are professional and also ways that entice the community to want to be inspired to do better. I think that is super important, and that's why I chose the platform of a memoir.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. And before we just before we came on, I was talking about a docu. I don't know. It's not a. It's a documentary because it's a short little film that his name is Otis Moss III did on his family, and they chronicled his dad, who was Otis Moss III, and his father, which was his Otis Moss III's grandfather, Otis Moss Sr., and how this gentleman, Otis Moss Sr., was in, this was back in 1946, I believe, was the date that they gave. He was getting the opportunity to go vote for the very first time. He was a widower, and he went to go vote, got dressed up, dressed to his had on his Sunday best suit, and everything, and shined his shoes and everything, and went to go vote that day. Walked 6 miles to the voting place where he had the paperwork that told him where to go to vote. Gets there, and then is told that he was at the wrong polling place. So he then has to walk another 6 miles to go to the supposedly right polling place. But gets there and then is told that again that he's at the wrong polling place. So he goes to the third polling place that he's supposed to get to, and by the time he gets there, five, not even five, he said five, the gentleman, I didn't even call him a gentleman, but the man that was there said, if you had gotten here 5 minutes earlier, you could have voted. But I'm sorry, we can't, we closed. And he had to then walk back home and tell his children, his 5 kids, because he had 5 kids, that
Wow.
he wasn't able to vote. And the story goes on where Junior, which was a son at the time, he tells all of his kids to make it a point to vote every year when they have the opportunity to go vote, when they need to go vote, to go vote. So his son Junior grows up, and he has a son, which is Otis Moss the third, and um, he winds up taking his son to go vote for the very first time, and he stands there in the booth next to his son to hear his son pull the lever so that he could vote. And he talked about that moment and what that moment meant to him, and how he thought of his dad at that time. Now, mind you, the junior had told that story many times to the children, so they knew it growing up. And he and the grandson, the third, he knew the story, but then it came to full fruition once he voted, and then he actually started to realize, wow, that granddad did not get the opportunity of what I'm getting to do. And then even in the documentary, they talk about Otis Moss the third. His son just recently got the opportunity to go vote as well. But they chronicled the story that the junior told, because the father senior was killed in a car accident. So just, if you all get the opportunity, I go to YouTube and put in Otis's Dream, and you'll be able to watch the docu series. It's not long. It's maybe 15. I think it might be 15 minutes, if that. I don't even know if it's 15 minutes long, but it is so compelling. It was such a story, and I remember because he was interviewed. The third was interviewed by Oprah Winfrey, and she asked him about putting this story together, and he said, like
Mm.
you, they had had it there for the longest time, and they finally convinced the father junior to kind of put his stamp on it, to be able to talk about it,
Right.
because he had told the story to his church congregation, because he's a pastor. So he had been telling the story. He had been telling the story
Right.
for years, and he even told it one time back in 1988, which is where he met Oprah Winfrey at the time, who wasn't Oprah at the time. She just had the show in Chicago, but she said that she was so compelled by that story that she's made it her purpose to vote ever since she heard him tell that story. And it just
Absolutely.
made me think of how important it is for the memoirs to be told, that we do get those family stories that get told, that get passed down from generation to generation. And I think that you putting it in the format that you put it in, I think that's really cool. And I think it's unique for people to be able to get it that way,
Yeah.
and everything. So I
It
think that
hooks
that's
them.
really great. Now, let me ask you this: how did you come up with the title? Where did the title
Okay.
come from?
So of course it's a memoir, so it's
Mm-hmm.
it's written from that perspective of being somebody's personal perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then the main character's name is Empress,
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
it's her memoirs.
Oh, wow,
So
okay.
yeah, and so actually I'm writing a sequel. Well, it's not really a sequel, but it's going to be a series. The book is going to be part of a series. So the book that I'm having coming out in December 1991 is her experience in a PWI, in a predominantly white institution.
Hmm.
So that should be also an interesting perspective. So we have, again, these stories of African Americans. They go into predominantly white institutions. What is their experience?
Mm.
So we have this character now that's able to take you through what it would be like to be an African American woman in an undergraduate institution that's predominantly white. So I look forward to sharing that experience as well.
That's cool. That is absolutely cool. Now, what do you say are three? What do you think are three keys to writing such an impactful book that you've written here? What would you say are three keys that you would give to someone about writing a book that's this impactful?
So just pieces of advice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to,
Okay.
to put something like this together that is going to be this impactful.
So I would say, of course, being just very deliberate about knowing what it is, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
message that you want to give,
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to really dictate how you write your book. Because what message you want to give is going to tell me what words I'm going to use, what
Mm-hmm.
characters I'm going to use, where they're going to be living, all this stuff. Um, Another piece of advice, of course, is to be very organized. Have a strategy. What
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest is definitely using a calendar, making sure you hold yourself accountable of whatever timetable you set forth for yourself. If that is what you say that you want to do, like if I'm going to write a book in 3 months, then
Mm-hmm.
hold yourself accountable and just make sure that you watch those timetables because, as we all know, time goes super fast. And then, of course, the last piece of advice that I would give is make sure you have somebody in your immediate community that you trust that you could use as, if you will, like a person that will preliminary read your book and
Mm-hmm.
give you some advice. You obviously you're not going to give it to you're not going to give it to the entire world, but
Right.
there may be somebody that you trust that you could say, okay, here's my manuscript, read it. What do you think you would feel as a reader if you read this for the first
Mm-hmm.
time? And that, could be very impactful to give you some critical feedback that can help you to improve your writing. Because, of course, as writers, we always want to think, oh, I'm the best writer. I know what I'm writing, but, being realistic and getting some feedback from the community, from the people that are actually going to want to spend their money and buy your book is important because again, these are your clients, these are your customers, and you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're putting forth into the community is something that's of quality, and that's something that people that are going to definitely want to read.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what does the title mean to you? Memoirs of an Empress. What does that mean to you?
Oh, okay. Well, the title is very personal, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, because the memoirs that I have written along the way have been a collection of experience that I have had with people and different places, and so I put like different pieces of various people's lives into the memoir. So it's a very personal thing for me, and so the title just says it all. Like, this is a memoir, this is personal. It's about, how I feel about African American women. We are all empress, we are all queens. And so, this is our story. This is what many of us experience. And it's super important that we're able to connect with written pieces of literature.
And I want you to be honest. How did you feel the first time you held your book in your hand?
Wow, I was beyond ecstatic. I couldn't believe that the day had actually come because you dream about it for so long and you just know what in your head what is it going to look like, and you have all your drafts of what the title is going to be and how it's going to look, but when you actually put it in your hand, it's a different feeling. And you know likewise, when I go and I Google myself and I'm seeing my book on all these platforms and I'm like, is this really me? And I'm like, it's really me. And then when things happen, like your book sells out and you're just like, oh my God, you're just amazing. So it's just an awesome feeling to know that when you set goals for yourself and you work hard, things can happen, you know,
Mm.
and mountains can be moved, and whatever you want to happen can happen. And, you know, that's the real message here tonight, you know. Don't limit yourself. Whatever it is, you know, you may not want to write a book, whatever it is, do it, you know, just do it, you know. The only thing that can happen is it could go right or it could go wrong. And if it goes wrong, that's a lesson to make it go right, you know. So
Exactly.
that's it, you know. So just be inspired.
Wow, you kind of just answered my next question, which was, what advice would you give to an aspiring author or writer? What advice would you give to them? Would it be that?
No, I would
Oh, okay.
say I have so much advice that I can give. And so I would just say another thing is to also make sure you're giving back to your community.
Mm.
Find something that it is that you could find, again, unique to your personality, that you love to do, that you could also now put that into some way that you could give back to the people that support you. And so, with that being said, I make sure that if you've never seen, I have a Facebook Live, for example, that every Friday I read children's books to children, because
Oh, wow.
I think it's super important for our community to become a community that loves books and to love reading. And you know, our the only way that we're going to learn new words is if we read them, because we don't typically we don't have those kind of conversations, you know, at the dinner table, or you know,
Right.
at the bowling alley, that gives us, you know, rise to new vocabulary. So we want to be making sure that we're giving ourselves experiences to make ourselves marketable in our community, and also being very competitive. You know, make sure that you know that you're not the only author out there. So you have to really work hard to get your name out there. You know, just don't say, "Oh, I published a book, I'm done." You know, if
Yeah.
you really want this book to sell, then you really have to go forth and make sure you're doing everything that is within your nature to make sure that that actually happens.
Yeah, because I always say that the real work begins once the book is in your hand. Once you have that book in your hand, that's when it goes from having to convince yourself that you could do it to convince others to believe in that message that you're writing through that book. That's the work right there.
That
Yeah,
is, that
that's
is.
the work right there.
That is. I'm actually in the process of planning for 2021 my book tour. And
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, so when you talk about it, I'm just like, yeah, he's right, because, you know, trying to plan to be in, like, because my plan is to be in a different city every month, and I'm just like, oh God, please, you know, because you just have to say, okay, that's 12 months, but where am I going to be this month? Where am I going to be this month? You know, so again, it's just chunking it, you know, just making sure that you know that these little pieces, it's going to make a big thing come together. But just look at it as, I can do this right now, I can do this right now, I can do this right now. So yeah, think big, you know, think big. You can do it. You're
I like
absolutely
that.
right. Having that book in your hand is the greatest feeling.
Yeah, yeah. So what's next for you? I know you talked about, you got the tour coming up in 2021, but talk a little bit about the tour, if you want to mention that, with the kind of things that you want to do with the tour, because it's going to be a little, a little shaky with COVID still going on and everything like that. But
I
talk about the
know.
tour, and then even your other book, if you want to talk about the things that you're working on and things that you have coming up.
So absolutely, thank you for asking. So first of all, the book tour, and you know, I'm very grateful that many places have adapted to a virtual platform.
Hmm.
So I will be able to go virtually to some of the places,
Cool.
because we've already talked about like alternative plans if in, you know, the event things are not
Right.
opened up and you can't actually be there in person. But there are some other places that are hosting live events. And so what they're doing is like limiting the people that
Right.
can actually come, but then
Right.
they might actually also host the meeting Zoom, because I'm actually participating in an event coming up in November where they're doing that, where they're having, they're limiting to like 50 people in the place,
Hmm.
but then they have like 150 people on Zoom.
On the Zoom.
So,
Hmm.
you know, I'm very grateful for that. I'm super excited about the book tour, because my major stops are in the U.S., but I do have two stops are going to be international. So I'm really
Oh,
excited
cool.
because my book is available internationally as well. So I'm really excited because I just, again, my book, like you said, is the first stop. I'm also advocate, for children's rights, and I'm also a public speaker. So using my book as a platform to get my message out is something that, like I said, I want to be able to use to my best ability.
Absolutely. Now tell people how they can connect with you, as you being a speaker, but also an author and everything like that. How can they contact you and connect with you and purchase the book? Because we definitely want them to do that.
Absolutely.
Get to.
Yeah. So, I'm super proud. This is now my third time showing my book.
Now do me
I
a
don't know.
favor because the screen is, I guess your green screen is
Oh,
is
you
is
know what it
blocking.
is?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to fix that. That's okay. So, my book is entitled The Memoirs of an Empress, and it's written by myself, and my name is Xylia Nolan. And if you go to my website, which is www.blackgirlswrite2, which is the number 2.com, you are going to find all the services that I offer as an author coach, as an editor, as a ghostwriter, as a screenwriter. So you can find many services there, as well as visiting platforms such as Facebook. I can be found at Mrs. Nolan. I also have a Facebook group for African American writers, which is also called Black Girls Write Too. Anyone is invited to join, but in this group, we focus on African American writers and making sure we highlight their contributions to the literary world. You could also find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at the handle Black Girls Write Too. And please make sure you go and visit YouTube, because I also have a YouTube channel at Black Girls Write Too. So again, I am super excited to be able to come to you if you need any assistance with writing, author coaching, you want to write a book, you don't know where to get started, reach out to me. Go to my website. I actually have some free stuff on the website for aspiring authors, so that you can like kind of get gauge where you are in the process. And then you can always email me back the forms that are on my website, and we can have a conversation from there. So reach out. I am available, and I'm looking forward. I'm trying to build more networks in the community to do more give back. So if there's anyone out there that are looking for educators or anyone writing tools in your business, I'm willing and able to contribute for free, as long as it's something that is going to be servicing the students, the children of the community. So that is something that I am super excited. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Um, I'm just really excited to be a part of this showcase. This is a great honor to be amongst all of these wonderful people. And I just want to remind all of you, please make sure you support Black authors, share our stories, let our voices be heard. We have powerful messages, all of us are unique, and make sure you're following Mr. McKenzie's page so that you can see all of the authors that are being showcased in this platform. So thank you so much. Thank you really very much.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be able to have this conversation with you, and and I tell each of you authors every time that I interview. I don't even say interview. I say have a conversation with you all. It gets, and I'm gonna say this just like this, and I know I'm an author. It gets better and better.
That's okay. That's okay. We can use our slang. We can use our dialect in our books. It's okay.
But it is,
Authors have writing rights.
you know what I'm saying? But it is such a pleasure to just hear the stories. And when myself and brother David Murphy, who is the editor in chief of the authors, you don't see that the light on my light is in the way.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
National Black Unity News newspaper, when we talked about this, yeah, and as a writer, I know you can relate to this. You have this idea of how your book is supposed to go, or a certain thing is supposed to go, but as you find yourself going into it, it kind of morphs into this own. It takes on its own little work, its own little dynamic, its own little personality, and everything else. And these interviews have done that very thing for me, because I get to introduce people to to authors that they might not have ordinarily heard about or read about or seen or anything like that. But I also love the fact that you all give the opportunity to be able to give a backstory, to talk about more than just the book. Because now when someone buys the memoirs of an empress, they know a little bit more about Miss Knowlin and the
That's
story
right.
behind the book, and they can relate to her a little bit more as they're
That's right.
reading the different, the different pages and stuff like that. So it's a pleasure for
Yes.
me to talk to you all and to give people some insights to you all, because, like you said, this is part of what we should be doing in supporting not just writers, authors, but our stories. And because if
Absolutely.
we don't tell our stories, no one else will. One, and they're
Absolutely.
not going to tell them like we tell them, because that's the thing about mainstream, and that was one of the reasons why I did not, when writing my books, I didn't want someone else to tell my story. I didn't
Hmm.
want someone else to tell me what my vision was for my books and everything.
Absolutely.
So when we tell our stories and we tell them our way, we have to support that, and we have to be able to give those that expose that tell their stories that exposure that they need in order to be able to do that. And the Author Showcase is that platform that we wanted to give, a national newspaper that gives authors, our authors, the ability to be able to talk about their stories their way, and to be able to just give us some messages that we need behind it as well too. So I thank you for joining me today. It's been
Thank
a
you. Thank you
pleasure.
for the opportunity. It's been
Absolutely.
wonderful.
So thanks everybody for tuning in to the National Black Unity News Author Showcase. You can actually, if you go to the website, you can actually subscribe to the newspaper at www.tnbun.com. You can go there, subscribe, get your copy of the newspaper, the new issue with Miss Nolan in it. You can see her and the other authors that are part of the showcase, but also just some other great writing that's in the paper as well too. It's not just about the author showcase. This is about some great editors that do some great writing about topics and just different aspects of our community that you might not ordinarily see. National newspaper. So you can go to the newspaper, the website, and subscribe. But then you can also go to our YouTube channel, the National Black Unity News YouTube channel, and you can see other authors that have been a part of the showcase. And Miss Nolan's will be up there shortly as well. But you can check out all of the other authors that have come to have their conversations with me as well. It's been a pleasure. You can go and you'll see the emblem. Actually, when you type it in, you'll see this emblem there. That's how you know it's the National Black Unity News newspaper. But you click on that, you can see all of the other authors that are part of the showcase. But it's been my pleasure. It's your boy Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder, and as I always say, this is 2020. We're moving fast and furious with purpose and passion. And as I always tell people, build the impact, because when you build the impact, you change the world. And we have authors such as Miss Nolan who not only build impact, but they're changing the world one book at a time, one memoir at a time,
That's,
one author at a time. So we thank y'all
that's
for
right.
tuning in,
Thank
and
you
we will
so
talk
much, guys. Thank you. Have a great night.
and we will talk to y'all soon.
Okay.